Going once, going twice, sold! You're listening to The Property Pod, an accessible and easy way to get into or help understand the goings-on of the property market. Join Aaron, John and Pat as they discuss all things real estate, most likely get sidetracked, and then try and rein it all back in as they present The Property Pod.
All right, everybody, welcome back to The Property Pod, your easy-to-access podcast, all about the property market. We are a little biased towards Tasmania, but we're trying to be helpful to everybody around the world when it comes to buying property. I'm your host, Aaron Horn from 414 Media House.
Especially those 4 listeners from Russia.
Yeah, that's
like I'm sure they're getting a lot out of the podcast.
Have we got Russia now? Oh, right.
And Macau, apparently. Apparently, we're like...
Hey, there's money in Macau. That's good.
On the business charts in Macau, we've gone up from 394 to 391. So we're the 391st most listened to business podcast in all of Macau.
Oh, I reckon that money's about to start rolling in.
Yeah,
100%.
Look out, boys.
All these Chinese investors wanting to do a new casino down here, they're us.
That must have been one of those planes that John goes on where they've got all the advertisements for, like, hey, you think you're moving to Bridgewater?
It all comes out of Macau. That's all it is.
Oh, cool. Well, boys, what's on the cards today?
Paddy?
You've organised this one, haven't you?
I have organised. We've got a special guest today, and I'm super excited about this guest because he's been helping people transform their homes for years. And he does, that's it.
That was Autobots and Decepticons.
I was going to go Terminator, but then I'm like, it's not Terminator. It's not. And I froze. So I'm really excited today because we've actually got Adam from Shift Property Styling on, and he's going to tell us how to present your home for sale and his services and how he actually operates, which is going to be fun.
Yeah, because you've been to their warehouse too, haven't you? And it's massive.
His warehouse is huge. It's literally just, and Adam, you'd agree with this, it's just massive. It's just full of couches, pillows, beds. Yeah. Like there's a wall like the size of my office just of cushions. Like if it was to fall over, I don't think you'd ever come out from underneath the cushions. That's how many there are.
Sounds like a dream.
Kind of like a ball pit full of of cushions.
You could make one hell of a house fort in that place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's out of this world.
You were telling me about this thing. I don't know. We probably should ask him about it when he comes in. But you were telling me about something about like a big giant staging area or something.
Yeah, so they got these big mats, and basically before they take the furniture out to a house, because that's what they do, they rent furniture to empty homes for people. They'll style the room on the mat back at the warehouse, and then once they've got it right, they pack it up and take it out to the house and put it in. So they know exactly how it's going to look before they get to where they're going.
That's pretty cool, yeah. It's to take a happy snap of the old furniture already laid out in place, so when the guys get in there, like, boom, done, next room.
Yeah, but cool. I'm not here to talk about Adam. We should really just get him in and get him to tell us.
I think the coffees are on the way and Adam's on the way, so let's cut away to that, and then we'll get Adam in and we'll have a yarn.
Absolutely.
Transform this.
Awesome.
414 Real Estate has been operating within the northern suburbs of Hobart since 2006. With their innovative approach to marketing and managing your property, they have all your property needs covered. Find out more by visiting them today at 414.com.au.
Got Adam from Shift Property here with us. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a problem. Thanks for being here. So just to give the listeners out there an idea, they know who we are, but they don't know much about you, Adam. Could you give us a rundown of who you are, what you do, and how you got invited onto the pod?
Yeah, well, look, I guess my role in property in Hobart is largely about presentation of homes. So I've run, alongside with my wife, Donielle, a business called Shift Property Styling for the last 14 years.
14 years has it been?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
I know, these wrinkles don't come easy. So we've been in and out of, I guess, the real estate game as part of what we do for that period of time, helping people look at their property from, I guess, an outsider's perspective. The process of selling a home, as you guys know, is fraught with all sorts of difficulties, including emotions, it's history with the property. It's probably not seeing it the way that buyers will. And I guess my role is to come in and sort of isolate issues that within the property that could be improved, that could be changed, and could be seen more positively for the buyer.
I thought you were like a property genie or
just don't come rub my lamp, whatever.
Like we have these houses and we're like, wow, and then you walk in, do your thing, and it's like a completely different place. I know Aaron can't get enough of photographing. Once you've been there.
That's the joy of kind of going to a property and then going to it after you've been in and had a go at it. It's just like, oh, holy moly, you can actually bring something I often say polish a turd, but you can bring something that looks pretty average.
Yeah, it's true.
And you get a whole new perspective on it.
Yeah, and look, I think a lot of the time, because owners have been living in their property for such a long period of time, they actually don't see the kind of things that
Kind of like
buyers
that
do.
retail blindness kind of thing that you can
and,
get.
And they've they put carpet in 20 years ago, and it was beautiful back then, and it's still great, but it's not. It's not what buyers are looking for. So I guess our job is to go through all that property as a whole and sort of determine what could be done, what could be improved, and then at the end, if they need it, we can completely empty the property and furnish it from scratch.
Yeah, so I guess that's where I was going to just go with next. I was up Mary's Hope Road doing a property. I went in and it was bare bones empty and there was nothing in it. And the carpet looked a bit average. There was kind of some nice features, but they just weren't popping out to me as I was getting ready to take the photos.
Yep.
A week later, the agents come to me and said, look, I think we're going to get some styling done on this place. Do you want to just hold off on the photos for now and we'll have another crack at it? I got there. And I was blown away. I was like, oh, crap, I'll buy this place. This is...
Oh, really? Because I can make that happen.
I've got a contract here. I've got a contract.
Well, I'm just going to have to ask for a raise, Pat. And I'm probably going to have to do about 12 extra podcasts a week to cut for that. But, yeah, sweet. It was one of those things where I came in with a whole new set of eyes. So I imagine as a purchaser coming in and being like, oh, wow, I can see the potential of what you've created with this place. Where did the idea come from?
I guess the genesis of the concept was it was about 15, 16 years ago. Don and I were heading away for one weekend. We just dropped by on an open home it was a local one. We thought we'd have a look. And we were just horrified by how people were presenting their houses. And this was a long time ago. This is before iPhones, before all that kind of stuff. So it was at a time where the market in Hobart wasn't moving particularly well. There weren't new concepts along for getting a house ready for market. It just was pretty basic. But what we did notice was that you go into a house and you see stuff. You see people's collateral, their day-to-day stuff. We were seeing clothes on washing lines. We were seeing stuff in sinks. We were seeing really poorly presented paint and decor and things like that. And we actually spent the whole romantic weekend away writing a business plan.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
And so, she still loves it to to this day.
Longing looks above the table going, nailed it.
I like that idea. So, it really started from there. And we started out doing basic consultations with people in their homes. So helping them look objectively at what their house was and what buyers were after from it, with a long-term plan for 5 years to maybe get a couple of sets of furniture to style houses with. Within 6 months, our garage was gone with furniture, our back room was gone with furniture, and we kept growing and growing from having our set up at home and out of a garage to a 70 square metre warehouse to then a 300 to 400 and now to almost 1,500 square metres of stuff.
I'm wishing we actually had shot at Adam's warehouse now I think about it, because it's amazing.
We'll come down and get some images of it.
It's a big space.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Well, because one thing I do like now, Adam, is that with the feedback from purchasers we'll get, I think they can understand when that's been personally styled, and they'll often recognise your brand as well.
Yes.
But I mean, 14 years, I'm guessing that was a long road out of Eden to get to that position where it is now. And how different is it having discussions with agents and owners now versus when you first started? And has that conversation become easier? Or
yeah, look, it's a very different chat with them. I would say in the first 6 years of trying to get the business up and running, it was really difficult. That we were actually laughed out of town when we started talking to agents initially about the concept. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Stick with your day job.
Well, I guess when you started as well, even just a photographer going in and shooting in a house 14 years ago would have been pretty rare.
Well, it was on 35 mil, if anything. It was on film.
Yeah, the time that you were looking to start, we couldn't even get a professional photographer paid for it, and you guys are saying, well, let us get it ready for you.
Yeah. But I guess, it sort of all stemmed from that basic concept and getting it up and running. But the agent take-up was slow, to be honest, and vendor take-up was even slower. So it was at a time where Melbourne and Sydney were taking off with the concept, and so we knew that we were onto something. It had to come here eventually. But, we eventually got to the point where you get a couple of people on board who see that working and see the success of it, and then the ball starts rolling. And I'd say now, realistically, we don't have to actively search for work as such per se, because agents refer it because they know it works. They've had those examples in their artillery now. They know it works, and it knows it works for not only them, but it works for their client, which is the most important part of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I know even we had one example was we had a house at Leonard Valley in McGuinness Crescent, and where that started is that originally, because the owners had that for its whole, ever since they built it, and it had old paint, and there was, but it had beautiful hardwood floors underneath it. And with discussion with the owners, the expectations were at 400, say. And they listened to my advice, and they did all the work, painted, did the carpets, all that kind of stuff. And then the new expectation with the daughter was like, I think we're about sort of mid-4s here. And I said, look, can you please trust me and get Adam's crew in and get this whole property styled? And it was a sort of a reluctance, but they finally got it done. And by the time the furniture was in then and all the rooms started to come together, well, then they're like, God, I think we need to start it off as over 465, and we finished at 500.
Yeah.
And it was just by that pure process of presenting the house as it could be without, obviously that was a financial investment for them, but it netted them, $70,000 extra in their back pocket.
It's amazing that just adding some things in or taking some things away can just change the whole outlook of the property. I know when I go in to take photos, when you were just saying before about, washing on the line or things in the sink, I just like, you're killing me. Like, I don't want to take photos of this, but it's not my place to be taking stuff off, or I need to talk with the agent to sort all this stuff out. Going into a property I know has been stylised and presented in its best light. It's just a breath of fresh air. And I think normally, 3 hours to do a property really well. The other day at the one that I thought was a bare bones nothing, I think I'm there for 5 hours just having fun, just grabbing extra shots and extra angles and kind of putting that extra work in because I've got something so beautiful and presented well to play with.
To work with, yeah. Yep, absolutely.
It's like having a sandbox full of toys and just being like, how am I going to make this look good?
I think what amazes me is that people are prepared to pay so much more for a property when it's styled, but the furniture doesn't actually come with the house.
No, but I think what they're actually then investing is it's emotion. So what they're buying is emotion, but they're also buying lifestyle and opportunity. So, if for example you compare a vacant property to a styled property, with a styled property you are getting all those sort of rich textures and those elements and that sense of humanity and home over seeing the fact that the skirting board's on a funny angle and the boards don't all meet up and the curtains are perhaps a little bit older and things like that. What it does is it visually kind of distracts people from some of those things, but it also provides them an opportunity to see how the property can be used in a real world situation.
So have you ever had anyone come in and say, hey, I want to buy it with the furniture?
All the time. And we do sell it. We either sell, in a lot of cases, it's either a piece of artwork or a bunch of cushions or a house lot of furniture.
Yep.
Because they've fallen in love with the property, but they've fallen in love with that lifestyle. That's what they want.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It's that. And I think even just distraction could be, that's a fair point, but also too, like you said, is that all of a sudden now they can feel themselves sitting in that space and living in that room.
You are right in the sense that what it does is it creates this engagement with people that wouldn't have been there otherwise. Otherwise you're just walking around cold walls and just looking at the view or maybe the kitchen. Whereas if you're engaged in the way the property actually feels from a human perspective, like from an emotional kind of level, then you're always going to entice people more. And if you can do that, if you can emotionally engage a number of buyers at the one time, then that's when the price is going to move. Absolutely. Because, emotion is the thing that buys property.
Well, it's something as simple that I've learned a heap from you over the years, but one little tip was, in a tiny little square kitchen where they're like, oh God, there's just nowhere to sit and eat, have dining, is it then you've just grabbed a little glass table that seated 4 and you purposely chose glass because it actually keeps the room and the space open, and all of a sudden you've got a dining room.
Yeah.
In that same space. So now just it went from, a house with a lounge room, kitchen and no dining to a lounge room, kitchen and dining, but for the sake of one table and a couple of chairs.
And fingerprints.
Oh,
yeah. Glass.
Pat talking as a dad here.
And that's sort of one thing that I'll often say to clients is that, look, you need to give space purpose.
Yeah.
Because once it's got purpose, that's where added value gets created. Because all of a sudden, one room transforms into 2, and then there's more value out of that room.
Yeah.
And so how is it then? What's a consultation look like with a client or even an agent from start to finish? What are the conversations you're having, and how are you mapping out that property property for the client?
I guess with a lived-in property, it's very different because there's more emotional engagement with the owner, the current owner. They are really the custodian at the process. We're at now. Like if someone's made the decision to sell, it really shouldn't be their home anymore. They need to separate themselves from the fact that they're living in it and they own the property, but it's not theirs anymore. What we're trying to do is move away from the kind of impression that it's their home to look at how the buyer engages with it. So we want to look at all the aspects that will change the way the buyer sees the property. So with a consultation, for example, we walk through with the vendor and have a chat to them about the simple things they can do. And then they're usually cost-effective things that are pretty straightforward. It's repairing damaged walls or looking at the way the curtains work or the way lighting affects the property, minor maintenance issues that should be tended to, that they've probably kind of left and thought, I'll do that next weekend or next weekend and have never really been attended to, and they've kind of forgotten about them. They're the first things that buyers will see when they walk in the door with a fresh set of eyes. So we're trying to eliminate all those negatives and enhance the positives in the property. So walking through with them would look at quite a lot of the basic kind of things that need to be done. You know, and it's really, it's 101 when you do it all the time. But for someone who's lived in the property for a while, they won't see it.
Yeah. And do you find you get a lot of resistance at that time?
Can do. You can do depending on the cost of the repair or what needs to be done. But I think prioritising it to make sure that the things that need to be done are the most either cost effective or the things that will have the biggest positive outcome.
Big net result, yeah. Yep.
Are the things that they've got to tackle first. And we might come up with, in some cases 50, 60 different things that could be done with the property, but we might isolate the top 10 to get it really, really, just finished.
So there's some common things that you see over and over and over that people should look at. So if you had to pick a couple, what would be some common things that you see time and time again? I
think a lot of things come down to trend eras that we see in a lot of properties. So you see a thing, you walk into a property and you go, wow, this hasn't been touched for the last 15, 20 years. It's just...
it's got that suede paint effect on the wall.
That's the early 2000s,
Yeah. So you get a lot of that. You get a lot of really sort of highly texturised and patterned tile in bathroom and kitchen and paint colours. Window furnishings are a big, some of the window furnishings we see are just... Wow. You see that.
Ghastly.
But then simple things to repair like light fittings, like just basic light fittings. And in fact, even putting a fitting on the light, so it's not just a bulb exposed.
Out of the wall.
And making sure that there are none of the horrible sort of fluoro, environmental globes for selling. At the end of the day, they just don't cast the right kind of light in a property. It's making sure we've got lots of natural light in a property. That's the big one. So the more we can remove heavy curtaining and let light into the house, the more the buyer sees potential. So there'd be an easy top 5, top 10 to reel off. But if you can get them across at that point, then they're more willing to accept future ideas and other concepts as well.
Well, and that's that element is look, you don't want to be your whole agenda for your client is look, we just want you obviously to see the best result at the end of the day. And, if you want to go 100%, we can do that for you. But we'd rather, obviously have you invest as little as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
Here's the path for you to walk, and how far do you want to go? And I guess that if you can show that one little 1% there, 1% there, 1% there, and like, oh my God, this is starting to really transform, and they can see it as well, then it's much easier for them to go all the way into, to professionally styling. And so so what will happen then if you've got that client who's got their furniture living in the house too? If uptake's the wrong word, do you find them more willing to remove the furniture and bring in new, or is it more so then they're just making those minor alterations?
So with the lived-in properties, it's not only about sort of fixing those kind of maintenance issues we just discussed, but it's looking at how much stock content, whatever you want to call it, they've got in the property. We all hold on. We all have way too much stuff in a house.
We've all got that drawer that you open it and just falls onto the floor.
Yeah. So,
but you're going to use that one day.
Yeah, that Tupperware will be handy, I'm sure. But I guess the end goal with that is to reduce and create traffic ways for human pedestrians to walk around. So and it's also looking at it from, if you've got an open home and you've got, say, 20 groups coming through that open home, you've got to make sure there's room for them too. It's not just for living. It's actually making sure that there's room for a multitude of people to converge on a property and still feel that it's comfortable. So it's looking at layout. So people have furniture layout in quite odd and different ways that they feel works for them, but may not work for buyers.
Yep.
So it's ensuring that maybe you don't need 3 or 4 recliners in that room with the giant sofa. Maybe just having 1 or 2 recliners would work. So let's eliminate that and create space. It's about removing things that would be potentially difficult for people to grasp in relation to where they could place their own furniture as well. It's about creating opportunities for people to see how layout works within the property and making sure that you don't have that third junk room. It's actually converted back to a bedroom. So it's a saleable kind of thing. We don't want all the crap from your whole existence in one bedroom.
Yep.
We want to see a bedroom. So it's all about that. But it's also eliminating things that may be found offensive by buyers, and by offensive, it could be a bedroom dedicated to a particular passion, whether it be trains or sewing or whatever. We don't necessarily want that.
Or things like football teams like Essendon on the walls.
Yes.
Like, that's offensive to me.
It's very, very offensive.
We had clients and I walked into their master bedroom and there it was, his wife, and she was there as well. She had this giant poster of a professional shot of her in like a big erotic photo shoot.
No, we've seen that too.
Yeah, and she was just and she told me about it, and I was like, I think we need to get that removed. No, but I don't want to take it down. I said, we need to take it down.
John's like, I'll look after that for you.
But you also don't want to see in a master bedroom something where you're creating quite an intimate space. A Monaro bedspread. And these are some of the things that we've seen. You've got to eliminate that. Yeah, that's right. Hey.
So it was Bathurst that weekend. He was just
right.
inside.
It was seasonally styled. Come on.
Remember that one I had to Photoshop the handcuffs out of?
Oh, nice.
I didn't even clock them. I just like photo. And that's like, that pink fluffy thing. Oh no.
Yeah,
God,
missed it.
We saw a photo once when it was on a property, and at the top left of the corner in the kitchen on the shelf was just a huge box that just said rat poison.
Nice. Yeah. Nothing sells a house like rat poison.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no. So look, wow. Where to from there? It really is about defining the property, okay? And that's as simple it is. It's not a complicated science. It's more an opportunity for the vendor to make additional cash.
Yeah.
And look, if you can invest, let's say you put in $1,000 on repairs, maintenance and things like that, and you make extra 15 or 20, that's money bloody well spent.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's just simple.
Yep.
It's so at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is create something that really absorbs the buyer.
Yeah, and from a buyer's perspective too, you could say, oh, you're only doing this just to get more money. Well, in the end, sometimes that actually helps people make a decision.
Yeah,
because we have had that process before where it's the exact same property now re-envisioned, and that same purchaser will come in and fall in love with it. Because not everyone wants that process of, I'll put in my own carpet, I'll put in my own paint. Some people just want, look, I just want it done for me, please. Can you bring me that product?
Yeah.
I want it to look like on the block, but I don't know how to do that.
Exactly. Can you do it for me? And I'm prepared to pay the money for it.
Yep.
So often, that process is helping people get out of their own way to let them buy something they really love. So even that instance when you're styling, and I know with one of your things that's really important about professional styling is rather than having that 6-seater couch, you're grabbing a low sitting 3-seater sofa with an accompaniment of 2 chairs because that fits the space better. It still holds just the same amount of people.
Yep.
But the thing is now you've got a whole set of furniture that's designed and fitted within that space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's sort of part of the process. You work with different scale properties over time. So you've got properties a bit like Mary's Hope where you didn't have a lot of room.
No.
But it was functional if you used the size appropriate furniture.
Oh, definitely.
So that's what it comes down to. It comes down to selecting the right pieces for that property. And no property is identical in size or scale or space. So you've got to make sure that it's tailored to suit it.
Say you're doing a more affluent suburb, will you have another set of furniture that will go in that'll be like, oh, this is
our A-grade furniture?
Yes, exactly. Like, this is the gold standard that'll go in Battery Point.
No, look, we're actually firm believers that the property market has become a bit more of a level playing field, I think. I don't think there's that same sort of scenario any longer.
Yep.
we've changed our inventory over the years, and inventory is a really difficult thing to maintain because
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that
change
as well.
style.
yeah,
and-
and so
Trends?
what we do is, and I'll come back to that question, is that we actually try and make sure that across the board all of our style properties have a similar kind of feel, and not from a like an identical look and feel, but they're all given equal weight in relation to where, regardless of where they're located, they need to have that same polished feel, and just because it's a property that is of lower value doesn't mean it deserves a lower style to it.
Yeah, sure.
Because, in a lot of cases we find that the lower value properties that are actually styled generate a higher return than those top end properties that style, because there's limited audience for them. But you get a entry market property that's styled really beautifully and suits the market, then it attracts a bigger audience and sells for probably a better price.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because we take the same approach with obviously how we do our marketing. Like with Aaron, doesn't matter if it's an expensive home or a cheap home, they still get the photos, the video, the 3D tour. It's all the same playing field. So it's,
of course.
similar to what you're suggesting is that now it doesn't really matter the price bracket or the suburb. They should all get the same quality finish.
That's right. But obviously, based on the room sizes, like obviously maybe a Sandy Bay property has a bigger room and requires more stock, which is standard, versus an average 3-bedder. But at the end of the day, it still deserves the same level of attention to detail as any other property.
Well, you're still selling to human beings, and you're still trying to draw the same thing out, which is the emotion.
Correct. Yeah. And so it shouldn't be any different. So but the inventory thing is really interesting because we do have to update content fairly regularly.
Yeah.
And that's an expensive process to start with.
Yep.
But what we've found over the years is if we buy really good classic base level stock, and by base level stock I'm talking about things like coffee tables, sofas, dining tables, then what we can do is we can upchange with accessories, artwork, linen, cushions, all that kind of thing as required.
Yep. So you dress it up with things that are on trend or coming through.
Yes.
So you've
seasonally.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what would be an answer to you then if the owner does just say, I know we've touched on it briefly, but the direct question is, my property doesn't need it.
Yeah. Well, look, I guess you get a lot of that sort of that feedback over time, but there's always something in every property that needs attention regardless, and it doesn't always have to be a furniture package, it doesn't always have to be that kind of level, but in every property we've worked in, there's always been something that's needed isolation and correction. And it really does surprise me, and a lot of the time we get a lot of pushback from the husband. Not interested.
Okay.
Don't need it. No, I've maintained this property.
I've looked after this bad boy. Hey.
Don't you worry.
See those eaves up there?
Yeah.
Fake.
Yeah.
Chimney? Fake too.
But so they need these properties still need attention. But if we can find those issues that isolate certain problems, I guarantee you that husband will come back and he'll be the first one to say, "I'm glad we made that decision. I'm glad we pushed for that."
You're a good bloke, Adam.
Yeah. And the wife's there rolling her eyes in the background. But it's the small things that make a big difference. And if you can isolate those things to start with, and that's when they start the owner really starts getting on board with the whole process.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's, I suppose, then, looking at a property stylist, that first thing is they always initially thought, a lot of money, just furniture.
Yep.
But that's just one arm of your service offering.
Yeah. So, we operate kind of 3 main streams at the moment, and that is the consultation service, which is actually going in and just working with owners, look at objectively what they've got, how they can reuse it and repurpose it, how they can isolate and improve. The second sort of tier is really going into the vacant properties and fully styling them from scratch, and whether that be just the basic bedroom, lounge room, dining room kind of package, or as we're finding now, most properties are doing the whole house. It's moved from pushing and trying to get just that base package in to just the whole house is done.
Get it done.
Yeah, and whether that be 4 bedrooms and 2 lounges and dining, whatever it needs to be, people are more on board because they're actually more aware of the successes that this brings them through either family and friends or agent referral or whatever. And then really the third service we do a lot of now is complete Airbnb fit out, which is proving really popular. So we essentially purchase the furniture on behalf of the owner of the property and fit it out for them. And it looks like a styled property. So they attract a really good clientele.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that makes... But again, the philosophy is no different, as it will... you've got 2 Airbnbs in competition. It's like, I want to go stay in the magazine property.
Absolutely.
Because now I want to do my Instagram photos and send it to my friends and family. Look how beautiful this place is.
Yeah.
Rather than that 1970s torn couch with the cat, scratches all over.
Yeah, every time I'm looking online to go away and I'm Airbnbing, I'm looking at the photos and picturing myself in that space. I'm like, I don't want that crappy casting couch kind of couch thing there. Sorry.
Hey, it's a fair thought.
Yeah.
We did talk about the erotic photo of the before.
Yeah, we might have to put an explicit on this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, look, the emotion that I get, and I'm just like, oh, my partner would really like that place with the beautiful styling over.
I want to give us that experience.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you say that, Aaron, because it's exactly the same when buying a house too.
Yeah.
So what you're actually saying is reflective of what people are finding when they're looking at online for photos of buying a house.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Why would I go and look at that one?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I look at this beautiful one?
Yeah. I want to put myself in that position,
Yes.
not in the Monaro bed.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, you never know.
Yeah. Red goes faster.
Going to shift gears. We've talked a lot about different servicings, Adam, but what is sort of an expectation that people need to consider when and how much it costs to style a property?
Okay. Well, I guess there is a cost involved in it, particularly when you're putting a house lot of furniture in. There's a lot of inventory that goes into a house. An average 3-bedroom house absorbs around $50,000 worth of inventory. So it's a cost for us to obviously put that inventory in. It gets damaged by sunlight, it gets damaged by people being around it and sitting on it and kids on it and all that kind of stuff. So, but what we say to people is that, putting furniture in a house, for example, is something that, as we've already discussed, creates that kind of that emotional engagement. What we're looking for with every job we do is between maybe a $3 to $5 return on investment. So if they're investing, if they're investing in a package of furniture, we're looking for a pretty good return on that.
Absolutely.
So statistical evidence that we did a couple of years back based on a bunch of jobs over a 2-year period, ranging from anything from around 300K up to 1.52 mil. We're seeing around about a 35K return on investment minimum that people were getting back, and it was selling based on RP data figures about 50% faster on suburb average.
Yep.
So I guess they're the figures we try and work with to some degree. I mean, if you can sell it faster, if you can sell it for more, it's a no-brainer. The investment is there. It's worthwhile. And if you're selling, in a week, 2 weeks, and you're out the door, you're laughing.
Well, that's a great point. It's the net result, or even the profit, realistically, that you're looking at for once the transaction's completed.
Yes.
And if you've achieved a higher price in a shorter time with a more engaged buyer, well then the initial investment is completely negligible.
Well, look, an average 3-bedroom house lot of furniture is sitting somewhere between, depending on the size of that particular property, is anywhere from about $3,700 to $4,000. Okay, so it's not a small investment by any means. But if you've got a 3-bedroom property that you have listed, and McGuinness is a great example, and suddenly you're almost making $50,000 on it.
Yeah.
How life-changing is that?
Oh, without question. And that's the thing, working back on percentages, is that if it costs 1% of its value to invest in that, plus your marketing, and then all of a sudden you've netted, an additional 10%, you're actually 7% better off by putting that initial, and then turning that into dollars.
Yes.
It's $3,000 investment, and you've netted an extra $30,000, you're $27,000 better off.
Yeah.
I think I know which way I'd take.
Yeah, well, there's a holiday or a new car or whatever you want. There's plenty of options.
There's a styled Airbnb that you could go to, John.
Yeah, that's right.
Damn well styled. Well, I reckon that's about time that we polish this one up, boys. It sounds like all the properties have been polished up really nice with Adam. Adam, where can people find you out there in the wide world?
Okay, so we are all over Instagram, we are all over Facebook, and you can find us at shiftpropertystyling.com.au.
Excellent. We will add all your socials into the show notes, and we'll try and pump you up because, I think it's really worthwhile styling your property, especially with you guys. It seemed like it was a no-brainer. I think it came up a few times in that one.
Yeah,
oh, absolutely.
Good stuff.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming in, mate.
No problems.
Excellent.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Bye.
Bye.
As a family-run business, First National Real Estate McGregor understands that the property market can be stressful. However, with a strong team in both sales and rentals, we are here to guide you through the property maze. Find out more today at mcgregorfn.com.
You have been listening to The Property Pod, produced and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Real Estate and McGregor First National Proprietary Limited.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek and use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this